Hello, former Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode of the Weekly Crusaders. My name's Sean Waskrug, and as always is Brian Michaels. And today we are talking about two movies that came out during the week of June 11th to June 17th. We've got two movies that we're both fond of. Brian's is a musical from the 2010s. I'm battling a cold, and I realized I said 2010s, and that sounded really bad. 2010s. And I am talking about a epic that came out in the early 90s. We're going to start with actually, before we jump into it, what were your thoughts on these two movies going into it? I know you were a fan of at least definitely one of them. What are you?
I'm actually a big fan of both of these. My thoughts on, well, they've seen the thumbnail. My thoughts on Robin Hood have always been kind of a roller coaster because like I remember really liking the movie, and then kind of over time, like, the more I watch, the more I see why people criticize, like Kevin Costner and things like that. But we'll get into that. But then I still just enjoy the hell out of it. It's just still a great, fun movie. And Rock of Ages, I actually went into thinking I was going to hate this movie, even though I'm a sucker for musicals. But I just love it. It's just so much fun. So much fun. And a great cast, top to bottom.
Yeah, we'll discuss that further when we get to it. But we're going to talk about my film first, which Brian's given away. But then again, you clicked on the page. You know what we're talking about. We're talking about the 1991 film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves came out June 14th, 1991, had a budget of $48 million, had a weekend opening of $25.63 million. It was number one its opening weekend. It spent 2 weeks at the number one spot. It had a finished box office of $390.49 million. 165.49 million domestic and 225 million international. And I agree with you in terms of Robin Hood as a whole. Like, obviously I grew up with the animated Disney Robin Hood, and then we got this one, and I obviously was a fan of this even as 6 years old when it came out. I've always liked Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. And, of course, even though you hate it, I love Robin Hood, Men in Tights. But since then, every iteration of Robin Hood has been fucking garbage. And we have talked about, I think, both of them on was it Weekend Crusaders? They're both our stinkers of the week, weren't they?
I think so. Even though I didn't.
I know Russell Crowe's was. I want to say we did.
Yeah, I don't know if we did Taron Egerton's or not. I didn't hate it as much as you did, but
I think we did because we talked about how it was copying Batman Begins during it.
Okay.
I want to say we talked about both of them as stinkers of the week. But Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, it's one of those that, like, and even as I was going back and rewatching, because I hadn't watched this in a very long time, because it's been a long time since I watched it, but I've always been fond of this movie. But the first half of this film, I was like, this isn't hitting me the way I thought I did. Like, I remember liking this movie a lot when I was younger, but it's like, it's not hitting me. I just wasn't in the right mood. But this is definitely a movie, and correct me if I'm wrong in my opinion. I mean, because I know you got your own opinion on it, but like cast-wise, it's great. I mean, you got Kevin Costner, you got Morgan Freeman, you got Christian Slater, but this movie lives and dies off the performance of the great late Alan Rickman as the Sheriff of Nottingham. Without his performance in this film, I don't think this movie is nearly remotely as good. I think it's average, if not below average at best. With his performance, it makes it legendary status for a Robin Hood film. It makes it a classic for Robin Hood films because of his fantastic performance as the Sheriff of Nottingham. Would you agree or disagree?
Oh, I think so. Because as much as I like the cast, and there are some fun moments in the movie, things like that, I think that most of the movie takes itself very seriously. And Alan Rickman is the one thing about it who kind of just goes like, unhinged over the top into this. He really steals every scene he's in, and rightfully so. This is, I mean, after obviously Die Hard as Hans Gruber, which is his first acting role, which theatrical act or in film, which is amazing. I think this is his second best role. Yes, better than Snape. That's down the list for me, but I just love him in this. He kind of is playing just a more unhinged Hans Gruber, honestly, and he's what makes this movie makes it as fun as it is. Yeah.
And then what I like about it is because I agree, this movie is taking itself seriously, but it's two people, and I feel like it's almost like the rest of the cast loosened up as the movie went on to a
Mm-hmm.
point. Because like in the beginning of the movie, you have Robin Hood and he's super serious, but then like when him and Morgan Freeman get free, it's like Costner's trying to be funny, but Morgan Freeman is not giving him anything to work on. So all of his jokes
Well, actually, and Morgan Freeman's lines are actually coming out funnier than
yeah,
Costner's.
but it's just they're not mixing well. It's like Costner's trying to be funny and it's not working. Morgan Freeman's just being Morgan Freeman and the comedy's working, but it's not like laugh out loud gut busting, but it's more like that was a good line. It isn't until we get Alan Rickman as Snape, because even then, like even the first like scene or two of Rickman, he's playing it serious.
Mm-hmm.
But then like as the movie moves on, it's almost I don't want to. It's not in the same wavelength. But I was going to say I'm just going to use it in terms of like more recency stuff. It's almost like he almost kind of starts to Ryan Reynolds it, because there's some dialogue in there. I was like, there's no way that was written. Like I feel like Rickman added.
Oh, all the best lines. The call off Christmas was
yes, the call off Christmas
was improvised. There's the other line about when Carver's hard up with a spoon or whatever. That was Alan Rickman's improvisation on set. They later made another line to refer to that. Yeah.
There's one line where he's arguing in a hallway and these two women. He's like, you be in my room with this. You bring a friend. it's like these little nuggets of just awesome lines. And
and from what I've read, and this is like an IMDb trivia, which anybody can edit, so you don't know if it's what's true and what's not. But I think I'd heard something like this before, that he turned down the role like twice. He didn't want to do it until basically he came and said, "You can do whatever you want with this role," and he's like, "Okay, now I'll do it." And he seemed to have a ton of fun with it.
So. There's so many great, and I agree with you on what you said. I love him as Snape, but Snape's role is very one note until we get to the end of the franchise, and then you find out like, oh, there's so much more to the Snape character. This is Alan Rickman's second best role. He is fantastic in this film. I love everything about his character in this. I love his banter. I love his he acts kind of wimpy, but he's not. But he's just very flamboyant with his stuff. It's like he's grungy when he needs to be grungy, and then he's just over the top, like flamboyant in certain respects. And then I love like even at the end, as fucked up as it is, like he's effectively trying to force Marion into marrying him, and then effectively trying to rape her. And then his mom's like, just do it now, just do it. He's like, no. If I'm gonna do anything, I'm gonna make this pure. And it's like, why now do you all of a sudden care about this? And
out of curiosity, real quick, did you watch the extended edition?
I watched the extended of both movies. I watched the extended.
Okay, just because in the theatrical version, it is not made clear that witch is his mom.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Yeah, because I did feel like it was a little heavy-handed, because like you just find out that Christian Slater's the brother of Robin Hood, and then like not even like 5 minutes later you find out the witch is his mother.
Yeah, this you think is just some witch like who's in his employ and his advisor or whatever like that. And in the extended cut, you realize that they imply that she's his mother.
And it's one of those things where it's been so long since I've seen the film in general, because normally I can watch the theatrical cut and then watch the extended cut. I'm like, I know exactly what scene's new and what scene's not. But I've been so far removed from seeing this originally that I can't recall what is new and what is extended and what is from the original cut. But yeah, I didn't remember that at all. But like I said, the cast itself, Robin Hood, or Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, he's basically Kevin Costner throughout this whole movie, which is not a bad thing, because Kevin Costner in the 90s was peak Kevin, and he's just doing his best Kevin Costner, but it works as Robin Hood.
It works in terms of the character. The fair criticism he gets is because of his accent, which if he went with no accent, that'd be one thing. If he could do an accent, that'd be another thing. But it just comes and goes throughout this entire movie.
I chalk it up to 1991. Just go do what you want to do, much like with Rickman. Just do what you want to do, kind of thing. And that's kind of where a lot of the fun comes into this movie, is when it's taking itself seriously. It's like, I'm not having fun. But when it wants to have fun, I'm not saying it's a full laugh out riot. It's clever funny, where it's like lines like "and cancel Christmas," and it's like, did he just say cancel Christmas? Like that's a good fucking line. Or how he starts to get like upset because he got the scar, and then he sees that the statue someone drew the scar on. He's fixated on trying to rub it off and shit. It's like little things like that that just are like little gems in this movie. Because I mean, the movie is pretty much what it is. You know, Robin Hood steals from the rich, gives to the poor, and Sheriff Nottingham's trying to take him out. But it's the performances that make this movie great. Morgan Freeman, he's great and everything. I don't think there's really ever a bad Morgan Freeman performance. It's just bad movies that he's in, that he's stuck in. Christian Slater, you love Christian Slater. He's annoying as fuck in this film. But
Christian Slater is Christian Slater in this movie. Like he is in most of his movies, honestly.
Not gonna lie, I kind of thought he died in this movie. Like, part of me was like, doesn't he die in this? I thought it was like, I'm your brother, and then he ends up dying anyway at the end. Like, I thought like he got like bow and arrowed at one point. I was like, oh no, he lived through the whole damn thing. I thought he died.
I liked him in this movie. Of course, you know, like you already said, I love 90s Christian Slater. I love pretty much everything he did in that era. But well, not Broken Arrow.
See, I like Broken Arrow. I don't understand why you hate Broken Arrow so much.
Because it's John Woo.
I'm gonna eventually make. Actually, I think we already passed it in terms of the Weekly Crusaders, so I can't.
Oh, that's a shame. We can cinemasticism it and just mock it the whole time.
It is not bad enough to be honest.
No, I wouldn't put it on there. But I like Christian Slater in this, and I thought he kind of added his own personality to it, which obviously they cast him more to bring in because they wanted to bring in a different demographics. The older crowd wants Kevin Costner, the young crowd wants Christian Slater, but I thought it worked.
I think the one thing that kind of annoyed me, and I think this even annoyed me when I was younger, because I like it was something that like ate at me when I was younger, and it hasn't like gone away. Is the I don't want to call it ADR because it's not ADR, but it's like the background chatter of like the characters in the movie. Like for instance, like the when Robin Hood's fighting Little John in the river. And like you hear like the younger son, was it Wolf or whatever? You hear him yelling and badgering in the background, and you hear Christian Slater like hollering in the background. It's like, oh my god, shut the fuck up! And it's stuff like that throughout the movie. You hear little like just out like all of a sudden it's like you hear rumbling, and then you have one person going, "Hey, blah blah blah." It's like, oh, really? We chose to keep that in the fucking film. You know, it's like, and that shit, even as a kid, that stuff annoyed me. And like, even now, it's
like, fun to the weirdest things sometimes.
We all have those things. It's something. It just, it grates at you and it never goes away. And that always grated at me, especially Wool. Like, did you see him? Like, I was like, shut up. Like, let them fight. But yeah, I liked what they did with most of the movie. I'm blanking on her name. Played Marion.
Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio.
Thank you for saying that because I would have butchered the shit.
I met in a Ruby Tuesday restaurant here in my town. She was randomly here one night. But
yeah, I thought she was a solid Maid Marian. I think her and Costner worked well together on screen. Little John was fine in the movie. I thought Michael McShane as Friar Tuck. I thought he was a little over the top, but like he grew. I feel like everyone in the movie, it's like their first scenes were kind of rough, but they had to kind of like relax into the movie. And then it was like after a first scene or two, I think everyone's performances really either gelled or they just blended more. They blended better into the script and the dialogue and the writing. I felt like that. I almost felt like almost everyone's first scenes in the movie were kind of rough, and then they all just gradually got better as the movie went on. I will say this, and it could just be because of the composer. This music feels very similar to like 9 other films in my head.
I love the music in this movie.
I'm not saying I hated it, but like when it first started, I was like, why do I feel like I've heard this? In, like,
well, here's the thing: is that one thing goes da 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 da. That is they ended up after this movie, which was put out by Morgan Creek. They adopted that as the music for their logo. So any movie you see that has production plays that part.
Yeah, because I was like, what? there's no way that my brain has completely remembered the
Yeah,
fucking
no, that's because they
score of
adopted kind of like
Robin
20th
Hood.
Century Fox has their fanfare. That's the fanfare they use for the Morgan Creek logo.
Yeah, and
So
then there's like other times throughout the film, like usually like their montage music, where it's like I feel like either people have used this score for other films like in the future or whatever. It's like none of all this sounds super
I
familiar,
think
and
part of
it's
it
not.
is also though. I think part of it's just like certain composers. You can kind of hear their music in different themes because like this is done by Michael Kamen, who is one of my favorite composers. Because he also did Die Hard. He did Lethal Weapon movies. He did all kinds of stuff. So I think sometimes you can just kind of hear pieces of it, like just like Hans Zimmer. You can tell when it's a Hans Zimmer
and
score,
and
and things
Jay,
sound familiar. Yeah.
yeah,
So it happens like that.
Jay John.
But yeah, I just think it's one of the most iconic scores, and that's what I really love about it. And what I also love about it, and which could have been very bad, but I think they did very well, is that like Titanic did it years later, they took the song they wanted to release in the movie, and they basically it's like incorporated. Now I don't know if they wrote the score first and then they decided to make a song out of it, or if they wrote the song and decided to incorporate it in the score. Either way, it's like you hear the score and you're like, oh, you hear the song worked into it, and I kind of like that. It kind of works for it.
Yeah, this was once again back in the time of the 90s where they would write a song specifically for the movie and it would be like the hit of the summer.
Yeah.
And is it I'll Be There For You?
Everything I do for you.
Everything I do for you. Bryan Adams. Yeah, this is the one song I know him most from is for this. And I remember the music video, like he's singing in the forest and all this shit. And they're showing like I remember like
so now the music video would be like partially the singer and then partially the scenes from the movie.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're it's a music video, but it's actually more just one big trailer reel for the movie. Like Batman or Seal for Batman Forever.
Kiss from a Rose.
Yeah. It was that, and then Batman Forever, and then of course Titanic, My Heart Will Go On. 90s was great at doing shit like this. Like who gets the next big single? Oh, it's gonna be Celine Dion. Celine Dion, I need you to come up with a movie or a song.
Honestly, I miss just songs being on soundtracks and in movies because like this is a weird thing but I just watched Extraction 2 tonight. Okay, and there's this scene where he's like at a cabin. This is because after he survived the first movie, he's at a cabin and he starts training because he has to go on a new mission and he's like lifting logs. I'm like, why can't there be like a good 80s montage song here like Rocky
you
IV?
You could have easily played Burning Heart.
But no, it's got like a serious, just plain score. So I'm like, this would be so much better with an 80s.
I think it's because people chalked it up to being like cheese.
I don't care.
And they want that. I don't care either. It's like if it fits, it fits. I don't want that because like now it's like everything has got to just be either a score or it's got to be a needle drop of an older song from like the 80s or 90s that we love, but it's not.
But they never work songs into the movie so much anymore.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're gonna throw, I Need a Hero in for like the 18,000th time in a movie, but it's like, give me something that just like, dude, this slaps. Like, this is a really good song to throw in here at this moment. And like I said, with this movie, it's all done in the credits, much like a lot of those movies, or songs used to do, because you can't bring Bryan Adams' song into fucking Robin.
No, but like I said, it was worked into the score. So
yeah.
So you've heard the song, you're kind of hearing it in your head, even though you're not playing the song. Yeah,
exactly. And so it's like this is like a peak 90s film. Like you had the epicness of it because it's Robin Hood. So you got medieval kind of times you got solid cast throughout. You got memorable performances with Alan Rickman, and I would say even Costner to a point. Like I said, iconic performance from Alan Rickman. I can't talk up his performance enough. I love that performance so damn much. Because even when you get into the final battle, he's still just talking shit. And you even get a great lines from Costner, like at the very end when he cuts his hair. He's like, I'll take a piece from you, piece by piece. Like I'll take little bits, So it's like that's such a badass line. And there's so much to like about this movie. It's not a perfect film by any means. Like I said, I think the first hour of it's fine, but it's not like grabbing you. And then when it finally gets into like Robin Hood being Robin Hood, that's when the movie really kicks up a notch, because that's when you're getting Rickman really kind of going into his villainy kind of stuff, and you got everyone just kind of more having fun and enjoying it. I also noticed that, like, especially in the extended cut, I don't remember them being in the original cut as much, but yeah, like I almost want to call them like the Pip and Mary.
Oh, Bull and whoever the guy was. Yeah.
Yeah, because they so feel like the Pip and Mary of this movie. Like
very
they
much that
even
kind of vibe to it. Yeah.
yeah, they're very much like the fucking like hobbits of the movie. Kind of like they're always the two.
They looked like hobbits too.
Yes, they're like the two merry men that are always the focal points. They're idiots. They're having their conversations like
It's
in my
comic
head,
relief. Yeah.
yeah, because I'm watching them like I don't remember these guys being in this movie that much. Like they are definitely extended cut. Like they
Well,
definitely
they have plenty of theatrical because this particular time I've seen the theatrical cut before, but this time I just watched I've seen the extended, but this time I watched the theatrical cut, and they were still in it plenty. That's some of the best. I do love like after Maid Marian and her handmaid or
yeah,
whoever like knocks him out. He's like, we were set upon by 10, 12 very large
15 men. 15 men. No, I like even up before that point when they're like ready to jump in, like, which one? You take the one on the left. Which one's the left? And he hands up his right hand. And then you get which one's the right?
Let's just go now.
Yeah. Like it's like little things like that. It's like I'm like, you know what? It's like they are the Merry and Pip of the group,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but I don't dislike it. I just don't remember them being in the movie nearly as much. And
Yeah.
I talked about him previously and I think it was when we were talking about Nope. But oh
Michael
god.
Wincott.
Yes, Wink. This is such an iconic role for
Well,
him.
the whole
This is
90s was the prime for Michael Wincott because he was in this, he was in The Crow, he
Three
was in
Musketeers.
Strange Days, Three Musketeers, Alien Resurrection. He just made a great creepy kind of bad guy.
His
and I love
voice
it. That voice, it's like
good.
yeah. I'm surprised he never did like animated voices because he would have a great voice for it.
I honestly wish he didn't get killed the way he got killed in this. Even though it was a great Rickman line, he was just such a badass like character, or just like his performance. I was like, I wanted him to like have more like in the final battle sequence kind of thing. But I love that guy. That's why that was like one of the big things that I loved about Nope. So when I heard his voice, I'm like, I know that voice. It's like, oh, because like I didn't recognize him right away, but it was his voice. I noticed right away. I was like, oh my god, that's the guy from like all these things. And I was like,
speaking of voices, do you know Robin's dad?
Robin's dad is the dad from Knight's Tale. Or was that
he?
No. He's not the dad from Knight's Tale.
No, his director is Little John. Little John's in Knight's Tale.
Yeah, he's the Little John is the guy who takes in William Thatcher.
Yeah.
No,
but Robin's dad is Brian Blessed, who is the voice of Boss Nass in Star Wars Episode 1.
Okay, I didn't need to know that.
He's also been in a lot of like Kenneth Branagh's Shakespeare stuff too. But
yeah, he looked familiar, but it definitely wasn't because of Boss fucking Nass. but yeah, for anyone who honestly, if anyone who's a fan of Robin Hood, you've seen this movie. There's no telling you need to check this out. If you've never checked this out and you're a fan of Alan Rickman, you're owed to go see this, with his third best performance being Galaxy Quest. Galaxy Quest is so fucking good too. but yeah, if you're a fan of Alan Rickman and you've never watched him as the Sheriff of Nottingham and Robin Hood Prince of Thieves, you are owed to go watch this and do the extended cut, because I don't know how many of his great scenes were from not in the extended cut. But you need to watch him as much as you can, because this is one of his best roles, bar none. And it's just Alan Rickman having a blast as the villain, and right up there with Hans Gruber as one of the best villains of the 90s. And everyone else there, Morgan Freeman's great as Morgan Freeman, and then Costner as Robin Hood. I think he's one of the, even though you can say what you want about his accent, based on the live action Robin Hoods we've got, he's the best fucking Robin Hood. He's better than Russell Crowe. He's better than Taron Egerton. And I mean, Carl Elway's, I mean, that was a comedy, but I mean, it is what it is.
So yeah,
he didn't suck, but I'd still would probably pick Costner. But yeah, that's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Next,
wait, no,
you got one more.
And if you haven't watched the movie, this will spoil it for you, but it's in the cast list. Sean Connery, what to date when that came out was the greatest cameo ever, because first of all, it's just cool to have Sean Connery show up in this movie as King Richard, but also the fact that back then it was actually a surprise. It's like, not only was it a matter of, you managed to avoid spoilers, because spoilers wasn't a thing because there was no internet. So this news wouldn't spread. Even if somebody knew about it, it would spread maybe among their little circle of friends or something. But, unless like some magazine ran something, but even then, most people would never hear anything about it. So when this happened in the theater and he came out and it turned out to be Sean Connery, people were like, holy shit, it's Sean Connery as the king. And I just love that moment. And apparently he got paid like $250,000 for like 5 minutes of work, but he gave it
Oh,
all to but he gave it all to charity. But I just think it was just great casting and a great surprise to have.
I'm just happy that my namesake didn't fucking die, because that's the one thing I always had problems with, is because I was named after Sean Connery because my
I
dad
was
was
gonna say Sean Bean.
no. I was named after Sean Connery because my dad was a big James Bond fan. And every time when I was a kid, I was like, "Oh, Sean Connery's in this," and he always fucking died. And I was like, "Why does my guy always die?" You know, like Dragonheart and what was it, First Night and shit. Like
I haven't seen those movies in a long time. So.
Yeah, he dies. The dragon dies at the end of the first movie.
I mean, Bond never dies.
I never watched the James Bond movies because I was a kid, and not that that was really like you can't watch this. The Bond movies when I was a kid just seemed really boring. But whenever I'd watch like old Connery, he always died, and so I was always like, why am I always watching him where he dies? Like, this is messed up. But yeah, Sean Connery popping in was really cool. I remember that. Well, I guess he didn't die in Last Crusade, so that was nice. But he almost died. He almost died in Last Crusade.
He died off screen before.
Yeah, he died. He died off screen. Next, we're going to be going to Brian's movie. Like Brian said at the beginning of the episode, it's a musical. We are talking about the 2012 rock musical, Rock of Ages. Rock of Ages came out June 15th, 2012, had a budget of $75 million, had a weekend opening of $14.44 million. It opened up third on its first opening weekend. It was the highest ranking it had, and had a finished box office of $59.42 million, $38.52 million domestic, and $20.90 million international. Take it away, Brian.
Yeah, so Rock of Ages it's an adaptation of a stage musical, which it's essentially what they call a jukebox musical, which is like the songs aren't written for the musical. They're like popular songs that are put in, like when they do there's that Jersey Boys was all the music of the.
I'm not gonna be able to help you out with this.
I don't know. I just blanked out.
I ain't gonna help you with this.
but and then other musicals, they've had musicals based on the music of Alanis Morissette or Michael Jackson. They do these things, and sometimes they do ones like this, which it's all different artists, but it's all the theme here is like that glam rock, like late 80s, early 90s. The movie takes place, the story takes place in 1987. But it's very fluid because there's a ton of anachronisms. There's songs that didn't come out till after that, things like that. But then again, we're also claiming these people wrote these songs, and clearly they didn't. So they play along with the dates. But it's just basically meant to represent kind of that era. Yeah. Which is, by the way, the best era for music, and this is some of the best music ever written.
I ain't gonna dispute that.
Right. So it's directed by Adam Shankman, who had done Hairspray before this, the movie version of Hairspray. He'd done a few comedies and stuff besides that. But really, it's the cast they assembled for this. I think that the cast they assembled knew that this was just going to be a fun time because everybody showed up and they were digging into their roles. You got Julianne Hough, who and Diego Boneta are kind of the leads, and they're basically the most unknown of the cast. Julianne had done some stuff like Dancing with the Stars, things like that. She'd done some small roles in movies. But
didn't she also do Footloose or Dirty Dancing of Havana Nights or something like that?
Footloose was the year before this.
Yeah.
She had a small role in Burlesque a couple of years earlier. And then she does after that, like Safe Haven and some other movies after that. Unfortunately, her career never quite took off the way I hoped it would.
I think she stuck more to dancing.
Yeah, because I think she's adorable. I think she wanted to go more into movies, but
she is super adorable in this movie. I mean, she's sexy as hell, but she's got that adorable like oh, she's like a pretty little puppy kind of thing. A sexy puppy, but a pretty puppy.
She's just a small town girl living in a lonely
Yes, exactly.
So she's in this. Diego Boneta, I believe this is his first film. He went on to have some roles in things like Terminator: Dark Fate and some other stuff.
Literally the only other movie I know.
But he's essentially largely unknown. But then besides that, the whole supporting cast, Tom Cruise obviously was the real coup. They cast him as Stacey Jacks. And you can tell Tom Cruise, and I think he even said in interviews in this, like, this is the kind of movie that you just have a blast making. You're not going in this trying to make high art. You're not going in there to try and make a cinematic masterpiece. You're going in there to just have fun. And it shows because he is just having so much fun in this. Clearly auto-tuned in his singing because Tom Cruise can't sing like that. But it's still, I think he did a great job. Alec Baldwin, Russell Brand, Melinda Ackerman, Paul Giamatti, Bryan Cranston, Catherine Zeta-Jones. And then you got cameos from all kinds of, rockers and singers and stuff like that throughout the movie. This is a movie I went into. I had not seen the stage musical, but I knew I liked the music. And then when it first started, I'm like, they're just kind of, it feels like they're just like shoehorning in these popular songs and
Like
singing along.
Glee, like
And I'm
Glee.
not sure if it's going to work. But really, by 10 minutes in the movie, I was just grinning ear to ear. I love this movie. I think it's just so much fun. I've never sung along, not in the theater, but even just watching this movie the other night, I was sitting there. I had the house to myself, so I'm singing along with the songs. I'm loving this, making a fool of myself. Yeah, this is just a movie that I watched this movie. I was looking at my Letterboxd history. I watch this movie like almost every year, it seems like. I've I've logged it like 8 times since it came out in 2012. So, because it's the kind of movie I can just put on in the background, or if I'm gonna sit down and watch it and just enjoy the music and enjoy the story and enjoy the comedy, and it's a ton of fun. And now this is one that I at first thought Sean was gonna hate, but then I found out he didn't. So give me your thoughts.
Yeah, this was definitely like when I saw the trailers for this when it first came out.
Mhm.
I was not a big musical person. I will say, doing movie trivia and actually becoming friends with you, I've actually my musical spectrum has broadened more. Because I didn't care to listen to musicals or watch musicals or anything like that, and then you kind of got me into watching them, and not all of them are good by any means. I think my drastic before you was like Grease, because my sister always had it on, or Sweeney Todd, because I actually had to perform Sweeney Todd in college, and Hairspray because it was mainstream. But like I didn't watch like Singing in the Rain, Sound of Music, any of that stuff. But then I started to with you. When the Rock of Ages came out, like cast wise, like, oh, Tom Cruise in a musical. It's a rock musical. That's weird. Okay, cool. Russell Brand, like, all right. I was like, oh, maybe I'll check that out. But the reviews were not great, and just got to a point where I was like, I'll watch it sometime maybe, but I'm not going to go out of my way to try to watch this because I don't really care about musicals. And I just kept hearing negative things about it. And then I think it was like 2.5 years ago. I don't remember what we were doing, but you were like, dude, you should watch this. You should check this out. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a try. I'm not like looking to like be blown away by it. And like you, the first 10 minutes of like the first song where they're all just mashing stuff up, like Julianne Hough is fine, but then you have like the whole people on the bus singing with her, and I'm like, oh god, this is gonna be corny as shit. And I don't know
What the fuck did Brian make me watch?
I don't know why this happens, because this seems to be a normal thing. You have a musical and you have all these actors, and most of them can sing. And then you have someone like Tom Cruise, who, auto-tune or not,
He sounded good. I'm just saying it wasn't
he sounded good. He sounded really, really good. But they always cast somebody in these movies that can't sing a lick. Like Les Mis, you had Russell Crowe. Even though I fucking can't stand it, Mamma Mia, you had like, was it who was it?
Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, it was Pierce Brosnan. I was like, wasn't it Pierce Brosnan who couldn't sing? Adam Baldwin.
I think Pierce Brosnan knew awful. He had kind of a Peter Gabriel sound to his voice, but he was definitely the weakest link in that movie.
Adam Baldwin cannot
Alec
sing.
Baldwin cannot sing.
Alec, he can't. He can't sing a lick. I remember the first time he sings, where he's like doing like the toes. I was like, dude, you're just talking. You can't sing.
And even just trying to like talk singing, he's not doing it well. It's like they could have definitely cast somebody else.
I will say he does get a little better as the movie gets on, but it's like, but yeah, that first 10
I will
minutes,
say him and Russell Brand both, because they have most of their scenes together.
Yeah.
And then some scenes really together. I think they're the two weakest links of this, but Alec Baldwin's even worse than Russell Brand.
I disagree. I love Russell Brand.
But then in like the scene, like in the one song where they're like declaring their love for each other and everything like that, it's just the stiffest choreography too. It's like they're definitely the weakest links.
I enjoy Russell Brand. Any time that Russell Brand is basically playing, oh my god, I'm blanking on his character name from Sarah Marshall.
I don't remember either.
I mean, the band's Infinite Sorrow, but I'm blanking on his actual name in the movie. But anytime he's basically playing that kind of guy, I'm kind of be all for it, because I just love Russell Brand and that kind of atmosphere. But yeah, that first song didn't do the best to kind of win me over, because I was like, oh, this is rough.
All the snow, by the way.
All the snow. But yeah, it was very rough. It wasn't until I gotta pull up their names or I'm gonna mess it up. It wasn't until Drew and Sherry go to the record store and he starts singing Jukebox Hero and their performance together. I was like,
and it's matched with I Love Rock and Roll.
yeah, I was like, oh, okay, that worked. I actually really liked that. And then from there, but then of course the next thing was Catherine Zeta-Jones, Hit Me With Your Best Shot, which is the stiffest, most awkward ass choreography for those women because they're supposed to like just be like that's what their characters are supposed to be. It's not like it's not supposed to be sexy. It looks almost like they're all playing like old women who have no like tune kind of thing. And it's like I'm not feeling like it was like good performance, bad performance, good performance. But then after that, like everything just started to kind of work and gel, and I was really liking these characters. And when Tom Cruise shows up, I was in. Like from his first moment when like Paul Giamatti, which I'm sorry, and this is for my wrestling fans out there. Brian's not going to get this, but for my wrestling fans, Paul Giamatti is playing Paul Heyman.
Oh, I know who that is.
Okay, he's 1,000% Paul Heyman in this movie.
Except Heyman's the monkey now.
Heyman. Which also, that should have been a joke.
Maybe that is the inspiration for it.
Heyman works through this whole fucking film. I didn't think I would like the fucking monkey. Heyman is great in this movie. And I enjoyed that monkey throughout this whole film. But yeah, Paul Giamatti is basically playing Paul Heyman through this film. And I mean that in like the highest of honor. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean like he's even got like the hairstyle, everything about it. It's like, you are Paul Heyman, and I love it. But when he goes in, and plus you got Kevin Nash playing the fucking bodyguard, I was like, I also just love that. But when he goes in and you go to see Tom Cruise for the first time, he's got like all these women laying on him, and he gets up and he's wearing this penis crotch, like devil tongue thing. I was like, what the fuck is this? And you're like, okay, Tom Cruise is like playing an out there character, but then he starts to like, he shows up, he has that interaction with Alec Baldwin, and I love that interaction with them. And then he finally sings I think it's Wanted, Dead or Alive with Malin Ackerman. I was like, oh my god, like,
well, no, he sings that one. The one he sings with Malin Ackerman is
no, I'm talking about when she asks what's it like to be
it's first talk, okay, yeah.
And he sings Wanted, Dead or Alive. I was like, oh my god, like I love this. Like I'm like, Tom Cruise is how dare I not think Tom Cruise is going to give a fucking 110% performance, because he always fucking does. He never shortchanges a movie, which I can respect, because you have some actors out there that we love, like Harrison Ford and Bruce Willis, where you're like, oh, dude, you're not even fucking trying. I can never say that Tom Cruise half-asses a performance. And honestly, going into Rock of Ages, I thought that's what we were going to get. Was like, oh, he's barely in this movie. He's not going to give effort. But
well, I honestly thought the reason I was kind of against it going in like this, it feels like stunt casting. I'm like, I don't think I'm gonna like John Travolta in Hairspray. I think is the worst thing about Hairspray, because it feels like stunt casting. Like there's no reason to put John Travolta as a fat woman in this movie when you could just cast somebody else.
But he's so good at it though.
But it still feels very much like stunt casting, unnecessary.
It's distracting.
But Tom Cruise in this, really I loved every minute of him.
Oh yeah, because like I'm sorry, like he learned dance choreography. Like when he's dancing during Rock Me Like a Hurricane with Sherry,
which is only the extended version.
It is. But yeah, because there's an extended version, and if you're gonna watch it, you should watch the extended version. But like he's doing dance choreography for her. He's doing pole dancing like spots in this. I was like, Tom, you are actually like really kind of giving it 1,000% in this movie. And like, I'm sorry, like I loved Stacey Jacks in this movie. Like I understood why women fainted in front of him and stuff like that. Like just Tom's stage presence and all the performances he has in this movie is fucking awesome. I loved it. Malin Ackerman, she's usually hit or miss on a lot of things. I actually really enjoyed her performance in this and what we got of her. Like I said, Julianne Hough is adorable as hell. She's a great singer. She's very much almost like a Britney-esque kind of voice to it. Because there's certain times she sings like, you kind of sound like Britney Spears. Mm-hmm. Not in a bad way or a good way, just you do. Diego, he's solid. I'm honestly surprised that his career didn't. I'm not saying he should have like went into the hemisphere, but I'm surprised he didn't do as much as what he probably could have. I think he could have had a solid career. Like I said, Alec Baldwin is not a singer at all, but after the first performance, I thought he was fine. Russell Brand's hilarious.
I liked his acting in the character just fine, just his singing it wasn't good.
Yeah, like Russell Brand is great. Paul Giamatti is great in the role he's doing. I will say this, and this probably might be more on the extended cut. Like I said, I've never seen the non-extended because the first time you made me watch it, I watched the extended not realizing it. And then you told me, like, oh, you watched the extended cut. I was like, oh, okay, well.
There's only like 2 musical numbers that aren't in the regular.
I was like, well, I'm not going to not watch this version because I like this version.
Right.
The one part of this movie that doesn't work for me, and it's not that she's bad. She feels unnecessary, and I feel like she's literally in there just to hog the attention. And it's Mary J. Blige.
Oh, yeah.
Her performance is inconsequential to this film. That is literally the downfall. Not even the downfall, but that's the one thing that keeps me from putting this like at a 4.5 or a 5 is that like 15, 20 minutes when Sherry like becomes a stripper and you have this, and then Diego's like becoming a pop boy band guy. Like that like pocket. I'm like, if I was ever gonna fast forward through a movie, this is the point where
I'll completely agree with you, and that's and especially for me to say that when Julianne Hough is on stage stripping, that's really saying something.
Yeah,
but it's like I again
broad panties the whole time.
Like you said, I think Mary J. Blige did a great job in her singing and things like that. It's just that is the part I care least about.
Well, it's like she's the actual singer out of everyone in this, but she's the one part where I'm like, why are you in here? Why are you singing this part? Like your character has nothing to do with anything that's happening right now, but they're forcing you to the narrative because you're an actual singer. Because every time she sings, I was like, no one gives a shit about this character.
And I will say, I mean, I agree with you completely, but I will say that is not the fault of the movie. That is the fault of the original stage show. It's this character. There's this.
I know, and it's just one of those things where it's like you force this character into the narrative, and it's not. And like I said, and then that's the thing too. Is like that's the play. So it's one of those things where a movie should take liberties on the play, which they do that from time to time, quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Maybe they needed to give her some stuff maybe earlier in the film.
Well, they did cut. There's more musical numbers in the show still than there were in the movie, but it's like maybe they should have cut hers.
Well, yeah, because it's no different than like in the Heights when they had the Oscar number with I'm blanking on her name, Abuela. Where you and I both were like, what the fuck is this? Is this the Oscar baity performance?
That's the chapter skip scene.
Yeah, oh yeah, that, and I skip that every fucking time I watch that movie. But it's every time she comes in, like when like the whole group is singing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm dead, and then she starts singing, I'm like, you are not a part of this. like you don't even go to this school. Why are you here? Kind of thing. And it's not that her singing is bad, because it's not. It's Mary J. Blige. Her voice is beautiful. But it's unnecessary. Her character is here because like she keeps just butting herself into the narrative. It's like, go over there. You don't belong in this narrative. Like if you were a part of this group from the get-go, it'd be fine. But you just kind of showed up in like the end of the second act, and I don't give a shit about your character development. I don't care about your character. Cool, you run the Kitty Cat Girl strip club. It's not even a strip club. It's just a dance club. And it's like, I don't care. And every time I've watched this movie, because I think it's the second or third time I've watched this, I'm like, I can't skip this, but I want to. And it's not even just because of Mary J. Blige. Just this is the aspect of the movie that I just don't.
Yeah, like. See, I don't dislike it at all. I if I had to pick what was my least interested, my least favorite part, that would be it. But I still watch the whole thing because I love the whole movie.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so much fun. I love this movie. I do, because like, and it's funny because like it just like when I watched it the very first time, I got to that first 10 minutes, I was like, oh no, was it like a first time watch love? Because I was like, this is rough. And then I was like, oh wait, no, I felt this way when the first time. And then it got to Jukebox Hero. I was like, okay, now I'm all right. I'm back into this. And then you get Tom Cruise's first performance, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's that first song. It's the first song, and then it's Catherine Zeta-Jones's first song. And
I like her first song too.
It's just it's the stiff choreography. It's just it doesn't. I get why they're doing it. And then you got Bryan Cranston, we're just doing Bryan Cranston shit. He was, if there was anyone who needed more screen time, it was Bryan fucking Cranston. You don't book someone in this way like Bryan Cranston and don't
Yeah, he never
utilize
gets to sing or anything. I mean, maybe he can't sing. I don't know. I've
He
never heard him
can't
try.
sing. He can't sing.
Oh, can he?
Yeah. I'm not saying he's but none of them in the movie is technically on a level that, but no, he's sung before. He's I think he's done it on Malcolm in the Middle in a comedic effect. He can sing.
Yeah, but I would have liked to have seen more of him because he was good, and he's one of those actors. So we talked about it when we talked about was it Power Ranger? No,
I mean he's in Power Rangers. We
were talking about, but just the fact that he's one of those actors who he'll do like serious dramas and he'll do stuff like this. I love that he just does everything.
And I just heard that he's saying that he's retiring.
Really? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, that last week he said that he was gonna be done, and I was like, no.
I think if he does, it'll be a temporary retirement. I think
maybe. I think he's saying he wanted to spend more time with his wife and family, and he didn't want to keep being pulled away. Which I'm like, I respect that, but I don't want Bryan Cranston to go away. But yeah, but this is like where it was like, yeah, he was doing Breaking Bad, but it's kind of like, it's like he wants to show that he can still do comedy, but even then, he's not doing a whole lot in this movie. But what he does do is fun and it works. But this is a movie that, like, yes, Julianne Hough and Diego are the main characters. Tom Cruise steals every scene in this movie, which he does in most movies where he's not the lead. He's still there. And then same thing with like Tropic Thunder. And it just made
like,
me,
like you said, I mean, there's like the first song you see him singing is Wanted Dead or Alive. But then like he has like the one, like you said, the
Pour Some Sugar on Me and Rock Like a Hurricane. And
the Rock Like a Hurricane one, like I said, is extended, which I always forget because this is only the second time I've watched the extended version, I think. And so I forgot again that song's in there. And I really love their performance there. Like the choreography, everything's really cool. But the scene with I Want to Know What Love Is, him and Malin Ackerman, that is so much fun. I mean, it's like, first of all, it's just so sexually charged.
Well, because like it's basically them having sex, without actually having sex in the scene.
Yeah. And at one point he's like singing into her ass. It's just
yes, and I even love the moment near the end of the movie where when he comes into the bourbon and he's like points at her and the girl comes up and kisses him and he's like, and I was like, that's fine, I get it. And he's still just like locked eyes with her the whole time as he's making out for like a solid like minute. And then he's like the whole time he's like I was like I said, just Tom Cruise just being, I don't understand why people don't like Tom Cruise. I really don't. Like, I get that he's a little weird.
He's a little weird in like real life.
But I'm sorry, man. He's so goddamn entertaining.
And he always gives 200%.
Everything.
It's just
everything. Like, I don't understand how people are like, I fucking hate Tom Cruise. How? Show me where in a movie that you just hate Tom Cruise. That dude is literally the most giving motherfucker in a performance.
He's the only watchable thing in Magnolia. He's awesome in this. He was awesome as Lestat, which nobody thought he would be. Come on,
the dude's an MVP. And but yeah, like this is a fun ass movie. And of course the music is great. It's great music. I remember after I first time watched it, I messaged you and I said, dude, that honestly I had my doubts, but that movie was fun as hell. And then I immediately went and got the soundtrack, and I was listening to that soundtrack like every day at work. And I had certain songs I liked more than others, but but I always listened to Tom Cruise's songs because they were just like awesome songs. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, it's, in terms of like my all-time favorite musicals, it's not going to be like in the top 5 or maybe even top 10, but it's definitely one that I would like to go back and review, because even after I watched it, because I watched it like a couple days ago, every time I pull up my Vudu to go watch something, I see it, and part of me almost goes, I kind of want to watch this again. And it's like, I was like, I don't have the time to go back and rewatch it. I was like, I do have the soundtrack, but I kind of want to watch them perform it at the same time. And but yeah, it's a fun ass movie, and I'm glad that you picked it so I could rewatch it, because I hadn't watched it since the first time. And so I was actively like excited to go back and rewatch this movie because I really wanted to see Tom Cruise's performance again. But yeah, I enjoyed it immensely. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, that covers it.
All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Weekly Crusaders. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, we're going to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Out right now, we have our non-spoiler review and spoiler discussion of The Flash. We also have coming up next week, we have the next episode of the Weekly Crusaders, where Brian, I don't want to assume what your movie is based off the title, but I think I'm right on it. But why don't you explain what your clue is?
It's a coming of age dramedy, probably a little more into comedy, starring a lot of faces who have gotten bigger roles in the years since then. So
It's not about what I think it is.
there's a crime element to it, but it's a coming of age movie.
Okay, all right. I was like, based off the title, I'm like, is that?
Yeah.
I have an idea of what the movie
There's a crime element to it, yeah.
And my movie is the best shark movie to come out since the original Jaws.
Deep Blue Sea? What?
We already talked about Deep Blue Sea, actually. So yeah, no, it is the best shark movie that they've ever made since Jaws came out, and I mean that, and that's not even like that's
it's
an
Sharknado 5. No,
fuck you, undisputed. This is the best shark movie that has come out since Jaws. Trust me, if you guys have never seen this, then you guys probably had no idea what I'm talking about. If you have seen this, then you 1,000% know what movie I'm talking about. So yeah, you can also probably just start shark movie that came out during June 18th and June 24th. You'll find out right away because my clues are dead on. But anyway, those are our picks for next week's Weekly Crusaders. We will also be bringing back Cinemasochism here in the next week or so, leading up to Secret Invasion, which is going to release on Disney Plus. Out right now, like I said, you got The Flash, Extraction 2. Brian saw that. Quick little synopsis of Extraction 2 because I have not got to check it out yet.
Great action. You don't care about the characters or story, but the action makes it worth watching alone.
Yeah. I might not get to check it out this weekend because I'm busy, but as soon as I do, if I feel like it's worth having a review for, then we will have one up here on the channel. Elemental also came out, but I probably won't check that out till it drops on Disney Plus. And then The Blackening came out. Brian's going to be checking that out probably this weekend. And next time we have an episode, we'll have him do a little brief review of it. I probably will not get to check that out until it comes on streaming, which will probably be like, what, in a month or two kind of thing. Next week, we've got No Hard Feelings, which Brian will be seeing this weekend on a special screening. So if he says that it's good, I will maybe check it out and then have a review for it. If he says it sucks, then my intuition was correct, and I will not waste my time watching that. And then what else was coming out this upcoming week?
Those were the two main ones. Or did we only say one? Oh, Asteroid City just goes wide. They don't
Asteroid City
this week.
You and I have literally no.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing I might check out on streaming someday. But
yeah, but we're not going to rush to see a Wes Anderson movie because those movies aren't our cup of tea. But yes, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. But we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Waskrug. That is Brian Michaels. And until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.